Angel loved to draw, but she often said, "I'm not good enough at drawing." Her pictures ended up crumpled in the bin. One day, her grandma gave her a reflective mirror with stars around the edges. "This is a magic mirror," Grandma whispered. "It shows who you really are." Angel looked into it. All she saw was, well, herself. "But I'm not special," she mumbled quietly to herself. That night, she dreamed of her drawings dancing around her. Lions and giraffes flying in the air with skates on, and flowers that sang. They said to Angel, "We came from your heart, you made us." The next day, Angel woke up smiling. Angel sat at her desk, picked up her colored crayons, grabbed her sketch pad, and began to draw again. When she felt unsure, she looked into the reflective mirror and she whispered, "I'm doing my best." At school, she started helping others who struggled with drawing. "It's okay to mess up," she said. "That's how we learn and grow." Her classmates cheered her on, and soon Angel's art covered most of the classroom walls. She still had her reflective mirror, but now she did not need it as much. Be kind and true to yourself. You are doing better than you think. Wilma the elephant lived in a jungle where many of the other animals loved to trumpet loudly and stomp around. However, Wilma was different as she liked soft songs, quiet walks, peace, and nature. "Why don't you roar like the others?" teased some of the monkeys. Wilma's ears drooped. She tried to stomp and shout, but it did not feel right for her. One day, a baby bird fell from its nest high up in a tree. The animals panicked. "Too high!" cried the fierce and ferocious lion. "Too tiny!" shouted the long-necked giraffe. Wilma stepped forward. With her gentle trunk, she lifted the baby bird off the ground, then raised her trunk higher and safely placed the baby bird back in its nest high up in the tree. Everyone gasped, and the deer said, "You saved it!" Wilma blushed and said, "I was just being careful." The wise owl nodded and said, "Gentleness is a gift." The monkey stopped teasing. "We are sorry, Wilma. You are special just as you are," said one of the monkeys. From that day on, Wilma used her trunk to help others by lifting, comforting, and planting flowers. She smiled and said, "I like being me. Being gentle is powerful. Be kind to yourself, even if you are different." Cirrus was a little cloud that floated high above the world. She was soft and fluffy. One day, she was feeling very sad. She was upset. "I do not want to shine or float. I just want to cry," she whispered to the other clouds. So she did. She cried, and her tears dripped down from her eyes. As she cried, raindrops fell gently all over the meadow below. Flowers drooped and birds fluttered away. "I'm sorry," said Cirrus. "I made everything worse." But then something wonderful happened. A sunflower lifted its head and smiled at the sky. "Thank you for the rain," the sunflower said. The thirsty grass turned green again. Brown branches on trees started swaying in joy. Even the children in the village put on their rain boots and danced in puddles, shouting out, "Yay! It's raining! It's rain day!" Cirrus blinked her wet eyes and said, "My tears helped?" A wise old eagle soared by and said, "Sometimes crying is just what the world needs." Cirrus smiled, still raining, but this time with love. From that day on, she did not hide her tears in fear. She rained when she felt sad and shined when she felt happy. She expressed her true emotions, and everyone below loved her just the same. It is okay to feel sad. Feelings help us to grow and learn, and even our tears can bring kindness to everyone in this world. Benji was a cheerful 7-year-old who loved two things more than anything: blowing bubbles and dreaming big. He had a huge imagination, and every day he invented silly games with his cute brown dog Pickles. One sunny afternoon, Benji received a strange-looking bottle in the mail. It had a note that read, "Blow with care. Big bubbles bring big surprises." "Ooh," Benji grinned, turning to Pickles. "This is going to be fun." He dipped the wand into the shimmery, sparkling, bubbly liquid and gave it a gentle blow. A bubble the size of a watermelon floated out. It shimmered in colors he had never seen before: turquoise, silver, and lemony gold. But, just as Benji reached out to pop it, whoosh! The bubble expanded, picked Benji up, and floated into the sky. Pickles barked and jumped, but Benji was already soaring above the trees, squealing with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I guess this is what they meant by big surprises," Benji gulped. The bubble carried Benji across rooftops and forests, finally landing in a mysterious floating bubble town made entirely of, well, bubbles. Houses, cars, trees, even the people were in bubbles. And right there at the gate stood the mayor of Bubble Town, a tall, shiny bubble man in a hat. "Welcome to Bubble Town," he said with a boing. "I'm Mayor Tippy." Benji was fascinated. Everything bounced, shimmered, and giggled. But Mayor Tippy looked worried. "We're glad you're here, Benji. We need your help. Our Bubble Bounce Festival is tomorrow, but someone has hidden all the bounce powder we need to keep the bubbles fluffy." Benji puffed up with pride and said, "A mystery? Count me in." Pickles had floated up too, inside his own little bubble, chasing a flying bone-shaped bubble toy. He barked, and Benji gave him a thumbs up and said, "Let's go, Detective Buddy." Mayor Tippy led them to the bubble maze, where clues were often hidden. Benji bounced inside and began exploring. He spotted a trail of glittery footprints and followed them. He ducked, twirled, and even got stuck in the squishy bubble tunnel. Finally, they reached the center and found a note that read, "Look where bubbles rise at noon." Benji and Pickles dashed to the great bubble fountain, where bubbles floated up into the sky. Benji climbed to the top, slipping and sliding the whole way. At the peak, he saw a tiny glint tucked behind a bubble statue. It was a small bottle labeled "Bounce Powder." But just as he reached for it, a giggling sound echoed around them. 3 mischievous bubble imps appeared, jiggling and wiggling like jelly beans. "We didn't mean any harm," the first imp said. "We just wanted a bouncier bounce for ourselves." Benji paused. He was about to scold them, but then remembered something. "Hey," Benji said gently, "you don't need to steal to have fun. Why not ask for help next time?" The imps looked down, ashamed. "You really think anyone would help us?" the second imp mumbled. "Sure," Benji said. "Let's work together and make the Bubble Bounce Festival better than ever." The imps grinned and bounced in agreement. With new energy and joined forces, Benji, Pickles, the Bubble Imps, and Mayor Tippy teamed up to prepare for the Bubble Bounce Festival. They mixed the bounce powder with extra sparkle, decorated the bubble square with shimmering lights, and practiced bouncing together. Benji encouraged everyone when things went wrong, cheered loudly when someone succeeded, and reminded the imps how great they were doing. "I never thought working together could be this fun," said one imp as he high-fived Pickles' paw. That night, Mayor Tippy gave Benji one final challenge. He told Benji, "Before you go home, we'd like you to teach the Bubble School a lesson on what you learned today." Benji stood in front of dozens of bubble children. His cheeks turned pink. "I'm not a teacher," he whispered. But then he remembered all he had done. He took a deep breath and said, "Today, I learned that even small people can solve big problems. I learned kindness works better than blame, and that working together makes everything more fun." The bubble children clapped and bounced in joy. As the Bubble Bounce Festival music began, Benji's magic bubble floated down. Pickles barked happily, and together they floated gently back home. Benji landed softly in his backyard, and the magic bottle vanished in a puff of sparkle. Pickles licked his face, and Benji said, "Well, that was the bubbliest adventure ever." Benji discovered that kindness is stronger than blame, and that even troublemakers can become friends when given a chance. He learned the importance of positive thinking, how teamwork can make big tasks fun and doable, and that believing in yourself is the first step to becoming a leader. Most importantly, Benji learned that sometimes the best adventures start with a little curiosity and a whole lot of love. Olivia lived in a town called Catty Crescent. She loved animals, but no one understood her love for Tutu, the stray cat who hid in Catty Crescent's shadows. "She's dirty," said the neighbors, and "she's scary," said the kids. But Olivia saw the fear in Tutu's eyes. "She's just lonely," Olivia whispered. Each day, Olivia sat in her front porch, leaving milk in a bowl and bits of fish in a plate for Tutu. Olivia read Tutu stories and never forced her to come close to Olivia. Weeks had passed, but then, on one sunny, cheerful morning, Tutu took a step forward towards Olivia. Then she took another step forward. She continued, and finally she curled up into Olivia's lap and purred. "She trusts me." Olivia smiled excitedly. Soon, Tutu followed Olivia everywhere. The town people started to notice. They said to Olivia, "You helped Tutu become happy." Olivia nodded and said, "Yes, she just needed someone to believe in her." Other kids in the town began caring for stray cats too, building shelters for the cats and offering the cats some milk and food like fish. Tutu became Catty Crescent's favorite cat. She became happy, healthy, and full of love. Compassion means listening without pushing. Trust grows slowly and gently. Barry lived in an old town called Twin Town. Barry was always in a hurry. He would push past people, cut into lines of people, and always would forget his please and thank you. One day, he hopped on the old town brown bus. The doors of the bus closed, and out of the blue the bus spoke. The bus said, "I'm a magical bus. You cannot leave this bus until you learn a lesson to respect." Barry gulped and he looked surprised. He never expected that a bus could ever speak. Nevertheless, as he was surprised when he saw an elderly lady standing on the bus holding onto a pole, he offered his seat to her. The bus dinged. 1 point to Barry for showing respect. At the next bus stop, a mother with a baby was about to get onto the bus. She was struggling to get on with her baby and bags. Barry reached out to help her. The bus dinged again. 2 points to Barry for showing respect. Later on, in Barry's journey on the bus, he bumped into a business person. He quickly apologized for bumping into him. Again, the bus dinged. 3 points to Barry for showing respect. After all 3 kind acts, the bus boomed and said, "You've learned your lesson about respect." When the bus reached Barry's bus stop, he thanked the bus and ran home from the bus stop, excited to tell everyone about his magical bus journey. From then on, he held doors open for other people, shared his snacks with other people, and always remembered his manners by saying please and thank you. Respecting others and kindness makes the world a better place for everyone. Remember to open the door to magical experiences and lifelong lessons. In the little town of Willowville, where the sun usually smiled and the wind whistled friendly tunes, something very unusual happened one Monday morning. The sky didn't just drizzle, it didn't just pour. It dumped buckets of rain, and it didn't stop. By Tuesday, the streets had turned into streams. By Wednesday, the mail carrier delivered letters by canoe. And by Thursday, the ducks were using the bus stop. But none of this bothered Avery, a curious, rubber boot-wearing 7-year-old with a polka-dot umbrella and a backpack full of snacks. She shouted, "Adventure waits for no puddle," as she stomped through the flooded park. Her best friend River, a cautious boy with oversized glasses and a raincoat that squeaked when he walked, wasn't so sure. "Avery," he muttered, tiptoeing behind her, "my socks are crying." "They're happy tears," Avery laughed. "Come on, there's a mystery here to solve." That morning, a loud announcement had come over the town speaker. It said, "Attention! The town's magical weather whistle has gone missing. Without it, the rain won't stop. We need brave volunteers." Naturally, Avery raised her hand before anyone finished the sentence. River had sighed and followed because wherever Avery went, chaos and cookies followed, and someone had to keep her out of trouble. Their first stop was the town library, where old Miss Puddlewick kept records of all magical objects, weather-related or otherwise. She was a woman made almost entirely of scarves. With narrowed eyes, she said, "The last person seen with the weather whistle was," she paused for dramatic effect, "the umbrella bandit." Avery cheered. Riva gasped. "Your task," Miss Puddlewick said, "is to follow the Soggy map. But beware, each path leads to a tricky trial. Only those with big hearts and dry underpants shall succeed." River glanced at his soaking socks. "We're doomed." But Avery grinned. "Challenge accepted." The Soggy map led them to the River of Forgetful Frogs. There was only one canoe, and it had a big sign that read, "This canoe floats with kindness. Be nice or get wet." Avery and River climbed in, but halfway across, the canoe began to wobble. A pair of wet squirrels had jumped aboard, shivering. "We're cold," one squeaked. River frowned and said, "They'll sink us." Avery handed over her raincoat and smiled. "We'll squeeze in tighter, right, River?" The canoe stopped wobbling. It floated faster. Even the frogs cheered from the banks. Lesson learned. Kindness keeps you afloat, even when it's cramped. On the other side of the river stood a talking tree named Gerald. "Answer my riddle or turn into moss," he groaned. "But remember, respect gets you hints." He boomed, "I drip, I drop, I fill your cup. When I fall, you hold me up. I wash the world and clean the street, but rude words make me skip a beat." Avery scratched her head and said, "Juice?" River whispered. "Water. He's describing rain." Avery turned to Gerald. "Excuse me, Mr. Tree, sir, may we respectfully guess? Rain?" Gerald smiled. "A respectful answer. You may pass." Lesson learned. Respect gets you further than guesswork. Next, they reached Splashy Hill, where slippery steps led up to a statue of the weather whistle. But just as they started climbing, it began to hail, tiny biting bubbles that bounced off their heads. At the bottom of the hill was a sign that read, "Only those who complete the responsibility rain dance may climb." A group of animals stood nearby, looking hopeless. "We don't know the steps," sobbed a dancing beaver. Avery stepped forward and said, "Don't worry, we'll help teach you." River dug into his backpack, pulling out a music speaker and a notepad. Together, they choreographed the silliest, soggiest dance ever with hip waggles, umbrella spins, and a final puddle splash spin. The animals followed. The hailstones stopped. The sun peeked out just a little. Lesson learned. Taking responsibility helps others to succeed too. The final trial was a water slide that whooshed into a long tunnel. The sign said, "This tunnel only opens with true teamwork." Avery and River tried to push open the door. Nothing. They tried singing. Still nothing. Then Avery noticed grooves in the wall. She suggested, "What if we stand here together?" They held hands, pressed the wall at the same time, and click! The tunnel lit up with glowing rainbows. Together they zoomed through the slide, laughing and yelling the whole way down. Lesson learned. Teamwork unlocks even the trickiest of paths. At the end of the tunnel was a clearing. And right in the middle, floating above a soggy pedestal, was the weather whistle. But standing in front of it was someone familiar. Grandpa? Avery blinked. Indeed, it was Grandpa Marley, her silly, sock-wearing, joke-cracking grandpa. "I took the whistle," he confessed. "I wanted to make the rain stay longer so my turnip garden would grow extra big." Avery and River stared. "I didn't think about the ducks at the bus stop," Grandpa said, hanging his head. "Or the soggy socks. I'm sorry, I messed up." Avery gave him a hug and said by comforting him, "Everyone makes mistakes, but it's brave to admit it." River added, "We can fix this together." River blew the whistle 3 times. Toot, toot, twee! Clouds parted. Sunlight poured down. The ducks cheered. Pickles, the dog, barked from a nearby canoe. Back in Willowville, the mayor handed Avery and River shiny medals made of recycled rubber boots. "You've saved the town," he declared, "and my pizza isn't soggy anymore." Avery beamed. River's socks were finally dry. Grandpa Marley promised no more sneaky gardening tricks. Kindness can warm cold hearts and cold squirrels. Respect can open doors, even leafy riddle-speaking ones. Responsibility means helping others, not just yourself. Teamwork can make any task a wild, fun adventure. And sometimes, grown-ups need to be reminded of these lessons too. As the sun set over Willowville, Avery turned to River. "What should we do tomorrow?" River smiled. "Maybe try to stay dry for once?" Avery giggled. "Nah, adventures are always better with wet socks." One sunny morning, Bun-Bun the bunny hopped into the lush green garden and heard a soft snuffle. Hop, pitty hop, Bun-Bun went. He peeked behind the daisies and found a tiny baby hedgehog with prickly fur. The hedgehog was trembling, scared, lost, and all alone. "Hi there, are you okay?" Bun-Bun asked the hedgehog. "I'm lost," whispered the hedgehog. "I cannot find my home." Bun-Bun's heart melted and he said, "Do not worry, I will help you. What is your name?" "I'm Prickly," the hedgehog replied. They searched through the tall grass, under long brown logs of wood, and around the pond. Along the way, Bun-Bun gave the hedgehog his orange carrot snack and told him silly stories to make him smile. "Why are you helping me?" asked the hedgehog. "Because everyone deserves kindness," Bun-Bun replied. Bun-Bun and the hedgehog then became friends. Eventually, they found a burrow filled with other little baby hedgehogs and a worried mama hedgehog. "You brought my baby hedgehog back," cried out the mama hedgehog in worry. "Thank you so much." The hedgehog hugged Bun-Bun with its tiny prickly arms and said, "You're my best friend." Bun-Bun beamed and expressed, "Kindness makes good friends." Helping others, no matter how small the gesture is, makes the world a warmer, calmer, and peaceful place. In a quiet village called Blue Dream County, little Julia visited her grandpa every Sunday. Her grandpa had a big garden full of colorful flowers, trees, butterflies, and buzzing bees. "Every flower has a story," Grandpa would say. One day, Grandpa showed Julia a tiny seed. With love and care, this will become something special, he said as he smiled. Julia helped plant it. She watered it, sang to it, nurtured it, and watched it grow. Grandpa told her tales of when he was young, and Julia was fascinated by his stories that she listened with her eyes peeled in excitement. Several weeks had passed, and the seed turned into a beautiful yellow sunflower taller than Julia. "You did this with patience and love," Grandpa said. Julia beamed and said, "Just like how you had taught me." As it was a hot day, they shared cold lemonade under the tall sunflower, giggling together. Julia learned more than gardening. She learned that older people are full of wisdom and warmth. Always make time for your grandparents. Spend time with elder family members as they have so much to teach us. Elders hold true wisdom and love that help us to grow, just like the tall yellow sunflower did. Respecting them brings beauty into our lives. Krista was a young, kind-hearted 7-year-old girl who loved drawing butterflies and helping the library teacher stack books on shelves. But lately, she didn't feel like going into school. Every day at recess, a group of kids teased her. They called her Quiet Krista and laughed at her drawings. One kid even crumpled her butterfly with bees sketch. Krista felt small, like a brown leaf blowing in the wind with no place to land. That night, Krista sat with her mom and whispered, "I think I'm being bullied." Her mom hugged her tightly and responded with, "Thank you for telling me. You are brave. And you are my little green leaf." They talked to her teacher the next morning, who listened kindly and promised to help. In class, later that morning, the teacher had a gentle talk about kindness and how teasing hurts even when it's said as a joke. She reminded everyone that every child deserves to feel safe and respected. The next day, when some of the other kids started teasing her again, Krista paused and took a deep breath. "Please stop. I don't like being treated this way," she said calmly but firmly. The other kids were surprised. One of the kids looked down and muttered, "Sorry, we didn't mean to hurt and upset you." Later, Krista found her drawing redone, with a new purple butterfly added. It was from Sam, the shy kid who never really spoke much. "I like your drawings," he said with kindness. Krista smiled and replied, "Thanks. I'm glad I told someone, and I'm glad I didn't stop being me." That night, she drew a picture of a green leaf dancing through the wind, strong, brave, and free. If someone is hurting you with words or actions, speak up. Tell a trusted adult. Stand up for yourself with kindness. And always remember that you are not alone and that you are enough.